that sound. God, it has been a long time. Okay. Greetings and welcome, everybody, and welcome to our new Let's Play of Metal Gear Solid, the original version, as bought off the PlayStation Network store. I have never in my life played a Metal Gear game. Oh. They're gone now. Or they should be. But, Oh, Konami. You aren't Konami anymore. Yay! He's free! Alright. Good place to start. Someplace less cold than where I am now. The hunt for something. Oh, wow. Those graphics.
The nuclear weapons disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island in Alaska's Fox Archipelago was attacked and captured by next-generation special forces.
PS4?
Being led by members of Foxhound.
I have no idea what any of this means.
They're demanding that the government turn over the remains of Big Boss.
No idea who that
They
is.
say that if their demands are not met within 24 hours, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
I know what that is.
You'll have two mission objectives.
Right.
First, you're to rescue DARPA Chief Donald Anderson.
Who?
And the president of Arms Tech, Kenneth Baker.
What tech?
Both are being held as hostages.
Okay.
Secondly, you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists have the ability to make a nuclear strike.
Right.
And stop them if they do.
Okay,
What's the insertion method?
We'll approach the disposal facility by sub.
And then?
We'll launch a one-man SDV.
consumer delivery vehicle. Cool.
After the SDV gets as close as it can, dispose of it. From there on, you'll have to swim.
In the Alaskan water? Oh boy.
High-Tech Special Forces Unit Foxhound. Your former unit, and one that I was a commander of.
So they're still around.
There are 6 members of Foxhound involved in this terrorist activity.
Okay.
Psycho Mattis, with his powerful psychic abilities.
Okay.
Sniper Wolf, the beautiful and deadly sharpshooter. Decoy Octopus, master of disguise.
You're just making this shit up.
Vulcan Raven, giant and shaman.
What?
And Revolver Ocelot.
I know him.
Specialist in interrogation and a formidable gunfighter.
I know of him.
Finally, in charge of them, Foxhound squad leader, Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake.
The man with the same code name as you. The nuclear weapons disposal facility covers the whole island.
Just watch out for quasi-plasmoid Snake.
Reach your target.
Anyone going with me?
As usual, this is a one-man infiltration mission.
Weapons and equipment OSP?
Outside
Yes.
perimeter.
This is a top-secret black op. Don't expect any official support.
Okay. Quite the start. Okay. Greetings and welcome, everybody, and welcome to Let's Play Metal Gear Solid Tactical Espionage Action. This is back when Konami meant something, to sort of celebrate the fact that Hideo Kojima has finally been released from the pachinko mines of Konami. I thought I'd take my look. I thought I'd play my first Metal Gear game. I have never played any of the Metal Gear Solid series, or any of the Metal Gear series at all, not just Metal Gear Solid. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. But you may notice that the annotation on this says Episode 0. That is because when I was first starting out this game, I did all the VR training here. And I keep forgetting that X is not enter, because this is a different version of the game than I'm used to. Or a different control setting than the game I'm used to. So circle is actually go, and X is back. That's kind of different. But you'll see here that I've already completed all the training modes, so I know how to play game. So I'm not going to make you watch all that. But when I was looking around at all the background information, there was a lot. Like, just there's so much background information just to be found on here. I figured I had to make it all its own episode. So we're just gonna start here with just Metal Gear, and I'm not gonna read this all out to you. I know it's all sad for you guys. I know, but the basic idea here is that we started out. You guys. Everyone and their mother probably knows what Metal Gear is and all this jazz, but I'm like the only guy who's been living under a rock and not saying this thing. But the basic idea here is that Metal Gear starts out with with Foxhound and our boy Solid Snake, who is the new rookie on the team, and the best guy. What's his name? What was his name? Hang on a minute. I just forgot the guy's name. Like, Foxhound. Gray Fox. Gray Fox was sent in to basically this new team called this new group called Outer Heaven says that they are developing nuclear missile stuff and they're gonna blow up the world. And so they send in this guy called Gray Fox from Foxhound, who's their top dog, to go infiltrate the mission and figure out. He goes missing, and then they send in their rookie. After a lot of putzing about, as you will, they find out that they've actually constructed a thing called a Metal Gear, which is, I'll get to in a minute, but they also find out that the leader of Foxhound, Big Boss, was actually the one behind the whole thing. They didn't expect the new rookie to actually succeed in the mission, but he does, beats Big Boss, bounces out of there, and everybody, moves on with their lives. And you could probably read and all that. Move on to Metal Gear Solid 2, or Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. These titles are going to confuse me to no end. But now, 10 years later, the world is facing an energy crisis, and somebody invents a new kind of petroleum called Oilix. Then the guy who invented it goes missing. They have to bring Solid Snake out of retirement, try to find out what's going on. They all track it down to this place called Zanzibar. Zanzibar is now apparently the new Heaven's What's-It, and is also apparently now being run by Big Boss, who is not dead. They have to fight. Snake goes in again, has to fight off the whole gang, finds out that they've made yet another Metal Gear, and has to fight Gray Fox, Big Boss, and this time actually finishes them off. So, yeah, and the guy who invented the Metal Gear was made to do it the first time under duress because his daughter was kidnapped or something, and then the second time this happens, the guy just comes back and decides he's evil. So they kill him again, and also kill the main guy who made the Oilix compound, but Snake steals the stuff and gets out, everyone's fine, lives in Alaska. Pretty simple stuff. Now, that's all well and good, but, now, back. I'd then like to bring you attention here to the actual manual, which I can pull up here because it is the PSN version. So, I'm just going to skip through a little bit of the stuff here, the controls and all that jazz, stuff we don't need to really look at here. But yeah, Outer Heaven Revolt. This is, again, gives you pretty much another summary of everything that was going on. The Outer Heaven Revolt, the Zanzibar Riot, everything that happened. They give you another, prologue on what's going on. Dawn of the 21st Century pretty much tells us everything that we're heard of or going to hear about again. Point of the game is the whole job here is infiltration. So we're not trying to kill everyone. We're trying to get in and get out without dying because they are way better than us when it comes to just, fighting. We can't deal with their numbers. It's actually really cool. And there's some news about how to use a cardboard box. Repelling torture event. Spoiler. How to use items. This is not what I'm looking for. Evasion mode, alert mode, camera mode, behind mode. They really were impressed with the camera back here, though. They put a lot of work into that. Game over. Saving. How to use the codec. Codec list here. I'll probably be consulting that a few times. Equipping weapons. Where is what I am looking for? Items? No. Briefing. Vibration test. Time attacks. Strangle. I'm sure it's here somewhere. Oh, here's some character art and a little background here. You can pause the game if you want to look at everybody. Mei-Ling, Commander Roy, and there's the Foxhound team. Psycho Mantis. I've heard things about him. Genome Soldiers. We'll get to that in a minute. Ninja. I don't know who that is. Hal Emmerich, Octagon. What I thought was funny though is that Octon is not, I always thought that when they said it they meant Octagon, but it's actually Otakon. It's Otakon, which stands for Otaku Convention, a Japanese animation festival. That is hilarious to me. But again, moving through here, check out what you need, SB. Here's this. Here we go. Foxhound, Next Generation, Metal Gear. This is something specifically that I want to address because they don't address it in the briefing information that we're going to look at here, but I just want to address this real quick. What is a Metal Gear? For the longest time, I just thought it's just a mech. That's all it is. It's just another fucking mech, another word for mech. But no. A nuclear-equipped walking battle tank. Its main selling point was its ability to launch a variety of nuclear warheads toward anywhere on the Earth from any location. It had the ability to move independently, and instead of using standard nuclear launch module, it was equipped with a weapon which allowed it to launch a nuclear weapon with no external support. Since it could be operated from regions which were, up until that point, not on the world's nuclear strategy map, it was a weapon that destroyed the sensitive balance of nuclear deterrence and represented an enormous threat to the entire world. Understatement of the fucking year. A Metal Gear, or at least the, the Metal Gear TX55, it's probably the most terrifying concept I can imagine. It is a mobile nuclear weapons platform that can fire basically to anywhere on the world. It's a mobile ICBM launcher. The Metal Gear TX55 is probably that is crazy. But it gets worse. Believe it or not, it gets fucking worse. Oh my god, hang on, where is it? Like, it's somewhere around here, I know it is. Powered electromagnetic cell, stealth camouflage, TMD, start. Here we are, start. A strategic nuclear missile reduction treaty. To date, Start 1 and Start 2 have been ratified, and the strategic nuclear arsenal of both the U.S. and Russia have been reduced between 30,000 to 35,000 warheads. Heavy ICBMs and MIRV ICBMs. Multiple independent re-entry vehicles. Why? Why? In the grand name of God and all that is holy, why would you ever need to make a nuke cluster bomb? Why would you? Why? And that's not the worst part. The worst part is that the TX55 can hold multiple of these things. Why? There is literally no reason for that to ever exist, even in concept. That's terrifying. Oh my god. I need customer support for this. That is... Oh my god. Why? Why would anyone ever need that? Why would that... Who would do that? Big Boss, that's who. The fact that... Oh my god, I can't wrap my head around that. Like, that is literally a planet killer. The Metal Gear TX55, from all the description I've read, is a planet killer. That is insane. There is... Stop that button. This is gonna fuck me up until I figure out to stop pressing X. But oh my god. Why? Jesus Christ. I'm just gonna let the briefing play out and comment.
It's been a long time, Snake.
I should have known you were behind this,
I'm gonna go
Colonel.
rocking back and forth in the corner.
That's no way to greet an old war buddy, Snake.
What do you want from me?
I just invited you here so we could have a talk.
Invited? That's what you call sending armed soldiers after me?
Sorry if they were a little rough with you. But we've got a serious situation here. Only you can get us out of it.
I'm retired from Foxhound. You're not my commander anymore, and I don't have to take orders from you or anyone else.
You will take these orders.
And you'll like
I
it.
know it.
Excuse me.
Who's this?
Dr. Naomi Hunter. She's chief of Foxhound's medical staff, and an expert in gene therapy.
Are you military?
No, civilian. I've been sent here from ATGC. Pleasure to meet you, Snake. Don't worry, this injection won't hurt a bit.
What's the shot for?
What's wrong? You don't like shots?
Snake, listen up. It all went down 5 hours ago. Heavily armed soldiers occupied Shadow Moses Island.
It's still an awesome
remote
name.
island off the coast of Alaska.
What soldiers?
Next Generation Special Forces, led by members of Unit Foxhound. They've presented Washington with a single demand, and they say that if it isn't met, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
A nuclear weapon?
I'm afraid so. You see, the island is the site of a secret nuclear weapons disposal facility.
Foxhound hijacking a nuclear weapon?
Now you understand how serious the situation is. You'll have 2 mission objectives. First, you're to rescue the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, and the president of Armstech, Kenneth Baker. They're both being held as hostages.
Those are some heavy-duty hostages.
Secondly, you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists have the ability to launch a nuclear strike, and stop them if they do. Any questions, Snake?
Questions? I haven't even said whether I'd accept this
I'm
mission.
gonna say he is.
Well, you can make up your mind after you hear more about the situation.
Okay, so that was our little introduction to the game there, and sort of more of a brought out thing. That's just the mission description. Outline infiltration method. So I'm just gonna go through here and commentate as need be, but like I said, we're just gonna be going through as need be. I just love the effect of this so much. Especially the VCR thing.
Tell me about the nuclear weapon disposal facility.
The disposal facility includes a hardened underground base. Even with our most advanced intelligence gathering equipment, we can't tell what's happening inside.
So someone needs to penetrate, gather intelligence, and report back. Sounds like a spy movie.
Really?
What's the insertion method?
Well, an air insertion is impossible.
Not with this storm going on.
We'll approach the disposal facility by sub.
Approach?
Yes, within a few miles of it. The facility is equipped with sonar detection capabilities. They'd be able to hear our engine or propeller noise.
And then?
We'll launch a one-man SDV.
Launch?
Same as a torpedo, only this has no propulsion device of its own. After the SDV gets as close as it can, dispose of it. From there on, you'll have to swim.
You want me to swim in sub-zero Alaskan water?
Don't worry. That suit represents the latest advances in polythermal technology. The nuclear weapons disposal facility covers the whole island. I'll instruct you by codec after you reach your target.
Anyone going with me?
As usual, this is a one-man infiltration mission.
Weapons and equipment OSP?
Yes, this is a top-secret black op. Don't expect any official support.
Also, why am I naked? Okay, so moving right along here, let's see what our actual time limit is on this. Like, how long do we have to complete the mission?
What's the time limit?
24 hours. They say they'll launch after 24 hours.
Do they say what the target will be?
So far, they haven't mentioned the target.
When did the countdown start?
5 hours ago.
Shit. So that gives me 19 hours. Or probably more around 18, considering how long it's going to take me to actually get there. So, let's have a look at operation number. Who's our person in charge?
Colonel, who are you speaking for?
Naturally, I'm representing the U.S. government.
So who's in supervisory control of this operation?
The President of the United States.
Which means that the President must be meeting with his top aides in the map room about now, huh?
No, at this point they're still video conferencing with each other.
If that's a real nuclear warhead, shouldn't they issue a COG?
Not yet. The Secretary of Defense has operational control and is fully aware of the situation. After you infiltrate, if you determine they possess nuclear launch capabilities, a COG will be issued.
Well, if they haven't relocated to the nuclear shelter under Mount Washington, I suppose there isn't that much reason to worry yet. Is the National Security Agency in on this?
Yes. So is the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency.
The DIA? I'm starting to get a bad feeling about this.
They'll be sending us some support.
We don't need desk jockeys. We need a nuclear weapons specialist.
Of course. A nuclear weapons specialist has already been assigned to us.
Those of you wondering, by the way, COG seems to stand for Continuity of Government, which is basically a plan that's put into option whenever there's like an urgency of or a nuclear problem. So basically, it's just the shit has hit the fan. We need to keep going. We need to get some shit going. Kind of an emergency action, from what I understand.
We need backup from a specialist. I'm just an amateur when it comes to nuclear weapons.
I know. That's why I've requested the assistance of a military analyst named Nastasha Romanenko. She'll be providing you backup by codec.
A female analyst?
Chernobyl?
She's built up an impressive record as an advisor for the Nuclear Emergency Search Team. Contact her if you have any questions. She's also an expert on high-tech weapons.
Where's she working from?
At her home in Los Angeles.
California. Seems like 1,000,000 miles away.
Could be, for all I know. Okay, so that's our nuke specialist there, who also writes for several magazines. Let's hear about Commander Campbell. Here's got good soup.
Colonel, you're retired. Why are you involved in this?
Because there aren't many people who know Foxhound as well as I do.
Is that really the only reason?
I've been soldiering for a long time. I don't know anything else. I guess even though I'm getting a little old, I still love to be in the field.
Colonel, you're a lousy liar. Tell me the real reason.
Okay, Snake. Sorry. I'll be frank. A person very dear to me is being held hostage.
Who is it?
My niece, Meryl.
Alrighty then. So now we know why the team's all back together. At least I guess. This is my first time meeting everyone. Let's hear about Meryl.
What was your niece doing here?
Several soldiers were reported missing the day of the revolt. And my niece was one of those called in as an emergency replacement.
She looks like you.
She's my little brother's girl. He died in the Gulf War, and since then I've been watching after her.
A personal motive, Colonel. That's not very soldierly.
I'm retired. I'm just an old man now. And I'm your friend.
Since when are we friends?
I've thought of us as friends since the fall of Zanzibar.
With my personality, I don't have too many friends.
That's what I trust about you. It's what makes you human. Please, Snake. Save my niece, Meryl.
All right. But I have 2 conditions.
Name them.
1, no more secrets between us. I want complete disclosure at all times. And 2, I'll only accept orders directly from you, Colonel. No cutoffs involved, okay?
Agreed. That's why I was called. But one thing.
What?
I'm not a colonel anymore. Just a retired old warhorse.
I understand, Colonel.
Nice. It's actually interesting. Snake is actually smoking in a couple of these cutscenes. I didn't notice it the first time through. So let's hear about Dr. Naomi.
That doctor, is she part of this operation too?
She was in charge of Foxhound's gene therapy.
See.
She knows more about those men than anyone else.
You mean you've seen them naked?
Make no mistake, I'm not a nurse. I'm a scientist.
By the way, What was that injection for?
It's a combination of nanomachines and an anti-freezing peptide so that your blood and other bodily fluids don't freeze, even at subarctic temperatures.
Nanomachines?
Oh god.
Not just one kind, either. There are different types which will replenish the supply of adrenaline, nutrition, and sugar in your bloodstream.
Now I don't have to worry about food.
I also put some nootropics in there.
Say what?
Nootropics. A class of drugs which will help improve your mental functioning.
It'll make me smarter, huh? Anything else?
Yes. Benzedrine. It's a type of stimulant. It'll keep you alert and responsive for 12 straight hours.
That was quite a cocktail. Anything else in there?
Those nanomachines will also keep your Codex batteries charged up.
Well, I guess I can call you when I'm ready to go on a diet.
You're welcome.
You know, I do hear that a celluloid peptide cake is really good with mint frosting. Points to anyone who got that. More detailed information. What's going on with these hostages? And why am I
The
naked?
chief of DARPA and the president of an arms manufacturing company. What business did they have at a nuclear weapons disposal facility?
The truth is that secret exercises were being conducted at the time the terrorist group attacked.
Must be extremely important exercises if those two were directly involved. Were they testing some kind of new advanced weapon?
I'm not privy to that information.
Do we know exactly where they're being held?
The DARPA chief has also been injected with a mini transmitter. As you get closer, you should be able to pick up his location on your radar.
Okay, that's immediately scaring me. The fact that it's called Metal Gear and the fact that we've got two hostages who, from what I was able to read before, Arms Tech actually focuses a lot on, they're really trying to keep, they're only the second best, so they're trying to really up themselves as far as, military contracts go. I don't know who the first is. That was, from what I read.
Do they really have the ability to launch a nuclear missile?
They say they do. They even gave us the serial number of the warhead they plan to use.
Was the number confirmed?
I'm afraid so. At the very least, they've got their hands on a real nuclear warhead.
Isn't there some kind of safety device to prevent this type of terrorism?
Yes. Every missile and warhead in our arsenal is equipped with a PAL, which uses a discrete detonation code.
PAL.
Permissive Action Link. The safety control system built into all nuclear weapons systems. But even so, we can't rest easy.
Why not?
Because the DARPA chief knows the detonation code.
God damn it.
But even if they have a nuclear warhead, it must have been removed from its missile. All the missiles on these disposal sites are supposed to be dismantled. It's not that easy to get your hands on an ICBM.
That used to be true. But since the end of the Cold War, you can get anything if you have enough money and the right connections.
So the basic summary of that is that we know that they have a warhead. We know that they have access to the code to ready the nuclear warhead. The question is, do they have the actual missile to put the warhead in? That's my job to find out. Or do they have the Metal Gear that's capable of launching lots of little warheads?
How well armed are these terrorists? I know there was an exercise going on at the time they revolted.
They're heavily armed, I'm afraid.
What about their battle experience?
The 6 members of Foxhound in charge are all hardened veterans. They're tough enough to eat nails and ask for seconds.
I wouldn't expect anything less from Foxhound.
The others are next-generation special forces. They're not your average grunts either.
Okay, so now we're finding out a bit more about who we're specifically up against. What do they want?
So what exactly are they demanding?
A person's remains.
Remains?
That's right. To be more accurate, cell specimens which contain the individual's genomic information.
Cell specimens? Why would they want that?
The terrorists need them. You see, these next-generation special forces have been strengthened through gene therapy.
Strengthened?
You've heard of the Human Genome Project. They've been mapping the human genome, and they're nearly finished. Following up on this research, the military has been working towards identifying those genes which are responsible for making effective soldiers.
There are genes that do that?
Yes. And using gene therapy, they're able to transplant those genes into regular soldiers.
Gene therapy?
I'll explain this part. With gene therapy, we can remove those genes which we know may lead to sickness or disease, and at the same time splice in genes with beneficial effects, such as resistance to cancer, for example.
In other words, we can overcome all sorts of genetic diseases, and at the same time add genetic characteristics as desired.
Okay. And so if you knew what genes were responsible for making the perfect soldier, you could implant them in the same way, right?
Yes, we could.
But it all depends on being able to isolate and identify those soldier genes.
And in order to do that, it's helpful if you can study the genomic information of one of the greatest soldiers ever.
Yeah, their greatest soldier ever is actually 02 to the complete rookie. I still find that funny.
One of the greatest soldiers ever?
The man they call the greatest warrior of the 20th century.
You don't mean Big Boss.
That's right. We've been working feverishly to identify the genes responsible for his incredible combat skill. So far, we've discovered about 60 of the so-called soldier genes.
So his body was recovered after all.
Yes, and his cells have remained frozen in a cryo chamber. His genomic information is a priceless treasure to mankind.
Priceless to the military, perhaps.
His body was burned severely, but it was possible to restore his DNA profile from just a single strand of his hair.
You people are amazing. And then you're gonna transplant those genes into soldiers?
Yes. We'll use a process that I discovered called gene targeting. The strongest soldiers don't become what they are by acquiring their skills through training or experience.
Bullshit.
We now know that hereditary factors are far more crucial for creating superior soldiers.
Snake, we can't give them his body. It's potentially more dangerous than all the nuclear warheads on that island put together.
Also
I
bullshit.
hear the terrorists are calling themselves the Sons of Big Boss.
The Sons of Big Boss?
Okay, I don't care how impressive your super soldier is. Blowing up the entire planet is not as dangerous as a couple of fucking super grunts. Ugh. You can take back a planet from soldiers. You can't take it back from nuclear warfare.
Tell me about these next-generation special forces.
They started out as an anti-terrorist special ops unit, made up of former members of biochem units, technical escort units, and the nuclear emergency surge team. Their purpose was to respond to threats involving next-generation weapons of mass destruction, including NBC weapons.
Nuclear, biological, or
Until
chemical.
they were added, that is.
Who's they?
These guys didn't start out as regular army.
Looks like a pretty international group. Mercenaries?
Yeah, and it gets worse. Most of them were from a merc agency that I think you're familiar with. They were part of Big Boss's private guard. And after Big Boss went down, the military just bought out all their contracts.
Outer heaven.
After that, they were merged with our own VR unit, Force 21, and retrained. If you ask me, these so-called next-generation special forces should be called simulated soldiers. They have no real battle experience.
Video game players, huh?
Hi.
Don't forget they've all been strengthened with gene therapy. They carry genes which make them excellent soldiers. Don't get careless just because they don't have much experience.
I thought using genetically modified soldiers was prohibited by international law.
Yes, but those are just declarations, not actual treaties.
The interesting thing is that nearly every member of the unit conspired in this attack.
They're more what you call guidelines than actual rules. Fucking damn it. Okay. And this is actually also kind of weird.
How could an entire unit be subverted to rebellion?
They're calling it a revolution.
Since they all went through the same gene therapy, they probably felt closer than brothers. They see the unit as their only family.
The Sons of Big Boss. But if they were regular army, they must have been interviewed periodically by army counselors.
According to their files, they all got straight A's on their psychological tests. They all seemed like fine, upstanding, patriotic soldiers.
But they all took part in the uprising?
No, several people didn't show up on the day of the exercise. That's why there was a resupply of troops.
Was there any sign recently that something might be wrong?
There was a report a month ago that they were acting strangely.
Apparently they consulted classified information about the soldier genes and performed their own gene therapy experiments.
They can do that even without you?
Well, our gene therapy process is almost completely automated. And besides that, they're all geniuses with IQs over 180.
Even the existence of this genome army is a national secret of the highest order. We've been hoping to investigate this thing quietly and deal with it behind closed doors.
Okay, so at some point, these genetically engineered super soldiers, who are trained mostly in VR missions, ended up consulting their own guidebook and then fiddling around with their gene therapy to do some unscheduled modifications. And shortly after that, nearly all of them decided to revolt. I wonder if there's a connection between those two events.
High-Tech Special Forces Unit Foxhound. Your former unit, and one that I was a commander of. An elite group combining firepower and expertise. They're every bit as good as when I was commanding them.
So they're still around.
There are 6 members of Foxhound involved in this terrorist activity. Psycho Mantis, with his powerful psychic abilities. Sniper Wolf, the beautiful and deadly sharpshooter. Decoy Octopus, master of disguise. Vulcan Raven, giant and shaman. And Revolver Ocelot, specialist in interrogation and a formidable gunfighter.
Looks like a lovely bunch of folks. Too bad we'll be meeting under these circumstances.
And finally, in charge of them, Foxhound's squad leader, Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake?
Yes. And you're the only person who can stand against him.
Okay, so there's Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. This is getting really fucking confusing already. Who the fuck is Liquid Snake? And am I gonna encounter a gaseous snake? The quasi-plasmoid snake?
Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake?
The man with the same codename as you.
Tell me what you know.
He fought in the Gulf War as a teenager, the youngest person in the SAS. His job was to track down and destroy mobile Scud missile launching platforms. You were there too, I believe. Didn't you infiltrate Western Iraq with a platoon of Green Berets?
I was just a kid myself back then.
The details are classified, but it seems that originally he penetrated the Middle East as a sleeper for the SIS.
He was a spy for the British Secret Intelligence Service?
But he never once showed his face in Century House. He was taken prisoner in Iraq, and after that there was no trace of him for several years. After you retired, he was rescued and became a member of Foxhound.
I thought that by the time I left, they were no longer using code names.
I don't know his real name. That information is so highly classified that even I can't look at it. Here's a photo of him. Pretty shocking, huh? His skin tone is different, but otherwise you two are exact duplicates.
I have a twin?
I don't know the details, but it seems so. That's why we really need you for this mission.
You're the only one who can beat him. Now that I've met you, I know. You've got something that he doesn't. I can see it in your eyes.
Why don't I find that thought more comforting?
Okay, so... cloning technology, maybe? I don't know. I honestly have no fucking idea. But that's the end of the briefing file.
I need to borrow your scissors.
What are you going to do?
Don't worry, just gonna clean myself up a little.
Huh?
I don't want to be mistaken for the leader of the terrorists.
Though, wouldn't that be a good thing considering you're going in undercover and espionage? Alright, and I believe that's everything as far as we're going to be covering in episode 0. Just one other minor note here is that when I was doing some research about, where to start in the Metal Gear series, everywhere I looked at, even the actual creator of the series himself said to start at Metal Gear 3 because that explains a lot of the backstory and tells you gives you a much better idea of what's going on. So I'm going to be very confused probably playing through this, especially since I've never even touched Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. However, the reason that I am starting off at Metal Gear Solid is because I feel kind of like if I were to play Metal Gear 3 first, it'd be like kind of playing the prequels before watching A New Hope. Like, you already know a lot of the big reveals, and it's not going to have as much of an impact on you. So I want to play through this in order of release rather than in order of, chronological. And also it's going to be very difficult to go backwards instead of forwards when it comes to mechanics. That's something else I noticed was that the game Metal Gear Twin Snakes is actually a remake of Metal Gear Solid, but with new graphics, new stuff put in, and new mechanics that sort of break the game horribly. So they also said the voice acting was a lot worse for some reason. I don't know why they wouldn't just take the original clips. But yeah, I decided to start off with the actual original Metal Gear Solid as seen on the PSN. So we're going to be playing through here, and I'm going to be having a good time. But that's all for Metal Gear Solid Episode 0, which is running a little bit long, but hope you guys will join me for the next episode, which will be, the actual start of the LP. So until that time, catch you later, everybody! Well, it was timed well.